the world tilts under the weight of wars, political brinksmanship, and lavish distractions, one has to ask, in a world so desperate for peace, why does conflict seem to be the loudest language that we speak? From the skies over Tehran to the streets of Kyiv, from billionaire weddings in Venice to grassroots resistance, the contradictions of power, grief, and celebration are playing out across borders. And through it all, we bring you the latest from the global stage. Because every headline tells a story, and every story deserves to be heard. Well, this is the Flash News. I am Star Smart, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. The conflict between Iran, Israel, and now the United States has now reached a critical boiling point, with direct United States strikes on Iranian nuclear sites and Israel intensifying its military operations. The world is witnessing a phase of warfare that goes far beyond proxy tension. It is now a confrontation of doctrines, deterrence, and power. On Sunday, the United States President Donald Trump confirmed that the United States carried out very successful strikes on Iran's most sensitive nuclear facilities, Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan, using high-precision bunker-buster bombs. A day later, Israel followed up with its own targeted strikes, hitting the Fordo site again and striking missile facilities and airports across western Iran. Iran, meanwhile, has vowed revenge and appealed to Russia for diplomatic and possibly strategic support. The war, now in its 11th day, is escalating despite calls for restraint. And with air raid sirens ringing out across Israeli cities, the region braces for what comes next. The Iranian regime has responded with threats to inflict serious damage in response to United States and Israeli strikes, though Iran's military capacity remains intact in several regions. Its air defense systems were outmaneuvered by advanced Western technologies, exposing vulnerabilities in its most secure zones. The Israeli military confirmed airstrikes on missile facilities in western Iran, including 6 regime-operated airports, believed to have been used for coordinating regional militias and drone launches. Now, amid sirens wailing in Jerusalem and explosions reported over the skies by AFP correspondents, it is clear that Iran's retaliation could target both military and civilian spheres. But in a world where nuclear programs are cloaked in secrecy and ideology, can the international community afford to wait until intentions become weapons? President Trump announced that the United States warplanes used 30,000-pound GBU-57 bunker-buster bombs to strike deep underground facilities at Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan, sites widely regarded by Western analysts as the core of Iran's suspected weapons program. While the full impact is still being assessed, President Trump said the strikes had obliterated Iran's nuclear infrastructure, signaling a no-compromise posture in Washington's strategy to deny Iran a nuclear path. Though critics urge caution, the Trump administration insists this is not about war for war's sake, but about preventing irreversible threat. After years of failed diplomatic overtures and stalled IAEA inspections, the administration argues this was a necessary act of deterrence, not aggression. And if diplomacy has long been manipulated as a shield for dangerous ambitions, how long before diplomacy itself becomes complicit? Well, let's take a look at Donald Trump.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say, we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, in coordination with the United States offensive, the Israel Defense Forces launched a second strike on Fordo, along with precision attacks on Western Iranian missile sites, and an extraordinary operation that reportedly breached the gates of a notorious Iranian prison. The prison, long criticized by rights groups for detaining political dissidents, was hit in what observers are calling a strategic psychological blow to the regime. This level of coordination between Israeli and United States forces reflects unprecedented military synergy. Israeli officials have made it clear any attempt to rebuild these nuclear sites will face swift consequences. Despite criticism from some international voices, Israel defends its action as part of a doctrine of preemption, a doctrine rooted not just in security policy, but in history. Should a nation surrounded by existential threats wait for a first strike to justify its last one? Well, let's take a listen to what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has to say.
Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history. In Operation Rising Lion, Israel has done truly amazing things. But in tonight's action against Iran's nuclear facilities, America has been truly unsurpassed. It has done what no other country on earth could do. History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons. His leadership today has created a pivot of history that can help lead the Middle East and beyond to a future of prosperity and peace. President Trump and I often say, peace through strength. First comes strength, then comes peace. And tonight, President Trump and the United States acted with a lot of strength. President Trump, I thank you. The people of Israel thank you. The forces of civilization thank you. God bless America. God bless Israel. And may God bless our unshakable alliance, our unbreakable faith.
Amidst the busy schedule of the sky in Iran facing both military and diplomatic pressure, we see Iran turning to Russia for support. In Moscow, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi met with President Vladimir Putin, who declared the strikes against Iran as groundless. While no formal alliance has been announced, Russia's involvement signals yet another geopolitical layer to an already volatile crisis. Especially after this, we'll take a look at what Russia's Putin has to say.
It concerns me. I am speaking seriously, without any irony or humor. There is a lot of conflict potential, and it is growing, including right under our noses. It affects us directly. This is the conflict we are facing in Ukraine, as well as the situation in the Middle East. We are very concerned about the situation around Iran's nuclear facilities. We are worried about where this could lead. This requires not only our careful attention to the events taking place, but also a search for solutions, preferably peaceful ones, in all areas. I say this quite sincerely. We support Iran in defending its legitimate interests, including its interests on peaceful atom. We have always taken this position. Our principled position on this issue and in this conflict has not changed. Who says we should have done more? What more could we have done? Should we initiate combat operations? We are already engaged in combat operations against those who oppose the ideas we defend and who pose a threat to the Russian Federation. These are essentially the same forces in Iran and in our case. These forces are somewhere far away, in the rear, behind our backs. They are not even on the front line. However, we have certain obligations and we defend Iran's right to a peaceful atom in deeds, not words.
Well, Putin's interest has raised questions worldwide as the Kremlin continues its war in Ukraine. Its role as a peace advocate elsewhere is seen by many as hypocritical. For a leader already engaged in an unprovoked invasion, what interest does Putin truly have in another country's war, if not to manipulate the global balance further in his favor? While the Israel-Iran war is no longer just a regional conflict, it is now a stage for global posturing, layered alliances, and hard decisions. With the United States leading strikes on nuclear infrastructure, Israel defended its red lines, and Iran pledging retaliation under the watchful eyes of Russia. The next phase could either tilt towards total confrontation or force the players back to the table. But in an age where weapons are deployed faster than diplomacy is drafted, who will decide when enough is enough? And will they act before it is too late is the question that leaves to linger. But then, as Russia condemns strikes on Iran, its own war machine unleashes fury on Ukraine, even as Russian Vladimir Putin positions himself as a would-be peace broker in the escalating Israel-Iran conflict. His military continues to unleash devastation on Ukraine, raising a sobering question. How can a nation advocate peace in one corner of the world while engineering destruction in another? Well, on Monday, Ukraine reported a massive aerial assault by Russia with over 350 unmanned drones and 16 missiles launched across its territory, primarily targeting the capital Kyiv and the nearby city of Bilatskva. Now, President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed that 6 civilians were killed in Kyiv and 1 in Bilatskva. Now, while dozens more were injured, explosions echoed across the capital overnight, and residents reported the ominous buzzing of drones overhead before the skies lit up in a volley of air defense strikes. This marks one of the deadliest air campaigns against Kyiv in recent months and follows a broader Russian strategy of exhausting Ukrainian defense systems by sheer volume of drones, many of which Ukraine says were Iranian-designed Shahed models. Notably, some munitions used in the strikes were also supplied by North Korea, according to Ukrainian intelligence. Now, in a war where silence is often deadlier than sound, how long can the world look away from these buzzing shadows of destruction? Well, the irony is quite chilling. While Iran pleads for diplomatic support from Russia, following Israeli and United States strikes, Iranian-made drones are being actively used by Russia to target Ukrainian civilians. The Shahed series drones have become a staple in Moscow's long-range, cost-effective aerial attacks. Ukraine's Ministry of Defense also confirmed the presence of North Korean artillery shells and missiles in the latest attack, signaling growing military partnerships among authoritarian regimes under sanctions. This trilateral cooperation, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, poses a serious threat to the existing global arms control framework. Meanwhile, Putin's attempt to cast himself as a stabilizing voice in the Middle East is being met with growing skepticism, particularly from NATO countries and neutral observers who point to the hypocrisy of waging a brutal war in Ukraine while condemning military action elsewhere. The assault comes amid growing diplomatic fatigue. The last direct contact between Ukrainian and Russian delegations took place nearly 3 weeks ago, with no follow-up meetings scheduled, despite multiple international efforts, including initiatives from Turkey, China, and even African nations. The diplomatic front has grown cold. President Zelensky, speaking on Monday, reaffirmed Ukraine's unwavering demand for the return of occupied territories, while Russia insists on retaining strategic zones in Donetsk, Luhansk, and Crimea. The stalemate has hardened, and in its wake, civilians are suffering continuous escalation of the war. Now, if diplomacy collapses while drones fly and missiles fall, who will be left to negotiate peace when the dust finally settles? Well, Russia's simultaneous involvement in Ukraine and influence over Iran reveals a dangerous geopolitical pattern, projecting peace while practicing war. As Moscow warns against Western involvement in Iran, it conveniently ignores its own deepening ties with Tehran and Pyongyang, both in weapon supply and strategic rhetoric. Western analysts argue that Putin's role in Iran is less about stability and more about leverage. Supporting Iran gives Russia regaining power in the Middle East and distracts global attention from its ongoing war crimes in Ukraine. Now, as the world watches Israel, Tehran and Washington exchanges warnings, Ukraine continues to burn in silence, which is a reminder that conflict fatigue is not a strategy, nor is it justice. Now, with missiles falling in Ukraine, drones hovering over Israel, and diplomacy being weaponized by double-speaking powers, the world is witnessing a convergence of crises where alliances are murky and morality often gives way to military convenience. Can a nation truly call for peace in one arena while sowing war in another? Is the question. But then leaders posture and civilians perish. The question isn't whether the world is watching, but whether it still remembers what it is watching for. Well, away from the wars around the globe, we'll take a look at another chaotic scene in Venice. Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez's upcoming wedding in Venice is shaping up to be far more than a high society event. It is now a lightning rod for controversy and growing public frustration. As the billionaire couple prepares for a multi-day celebration expected to unfold between June 24th and 28th, locals and activists are voicing their outrage over what they see as commodification of their historic city. The ceremony is reportedly taking place across some of Venice's most exclusive venues, including the private island of San Giorgio and Bezos' $500 million super yacht, Kourou. Guests are set to include high-profile names from politics, entertainment, and tech, turning what might have been a private affair into a spectacle of global attention. Local vendors, artisans, and luxury service providers are heavily involved, with organizers claiming that over 80% of services are being sourced within Venice itself. The couple has also pledged donations to Venetian charities and environmental groups, including one working to protect the city's fragile lagoon. Still, the backlash is mounting. Residents, activists, and environmental organizations argue that this wedding is just the latest example of Venice being treated like a playground for the ultra-rich. Protest banners bearing messages like "No space for Bezos" have appeared across the city, from iconic bridges to bell towers. Greenpeace Italy and other groups have called out the symbolic and environmental implications of such opulence, especially in a city already straining under the pressure of over-tourism and climate threats. Many locals fear that the wedding will not only strain the already fragile ecosystem, but also disrupt daily life with canal closures, soaring prices, and overcrowding. Venice has long struggled with balancing its reputation as a romantic global destination against the needs of its declining resident population. Critics say events like this worsen that imbalance, accelerating the gentrification and commercialization of a city that is losing its soul to spectacle. To supporters, the wedding presents an opportunity to inject economic life into Venice's local businesses. City officials have defended the affair, comparing it to other notable celebrity weddings in Venice and emphasizing the private nature of the event. But to many Venetians, it represents something else entirely, a city that is slowly being sold off moment by moment, celebration by celebration. Well, even as wedding planners emphasize the charitable effort and cultural sensitivity surrounding the event, the broader question remains how much of Venice can be rented before it stops belonging to its people. In a time where conversations about wealth disparity, environmental responsibility, and cultural preservation are more urgent than ever, the Bezos-Sanchez wedding has become more than a love story. It is a reflection of our times, a moment where opulence and outrage collide on the canals of a city that refuses to be silenced. When the flashpoints flare and the noise of the world grows louder, one truth remains. The facts may change, but the need for truth never will. Thank you for staying informed with us on the Flash News today. But that brings us to the end of it all for today. Now, for more information on the happenings around the home front, do stay tuned for Undaunted coming up at 8 p.m. Amba time. Do have a pleasant day. We'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images.